Hello and welcome to the Success Lab podcast with Christoph and Tim. Hey Tim.
Hello, Christoph.
For everyone who is new to this podcast, we make topics like motivation, personal development, health and life satisfaction more graspable and break down knowledge from different sources and personal experiences in a practical way. We want to inspire you guys on this journey so we can strive together for improvement as a community and become the best versions of ourselves. Tim, very warm welcome to this new podcast episode. The topics, tell us about the topics which we will tackle today.
Hello, Christoph. Yeah, I'm excited. Today we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, startup, and having ideas and how to get from an idea to maybe, going to the direction of starting a company. What are the necessary steps? What does the general education say about it? What is practical examples from books and other people we have read about, and what maybe experiences we have made in our lives?
So what are some touch points with you and entrepreneurship?
Okay. I will also ask you the question in a little bit. For me, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur or something in this field. I always found it very interesting and very inspiring to do something out of the, let's say, ordinary, not like just being in the same company for a while. And I do think it has actually changed in our world, that more and more people don't just want to have a 9-to-5 job in a normal typical company, but they want to do like something more extraordinary. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to be like startup owners or something, but maybe like self-employed and some things. Like we can also talk about those things, like just not the, let's say, very typical style. And I always wanted to like make my own company work and build something basically. So I actually don't consider myself as like a great inventor or anything, and I don't think I have crazy good ideas. I mean, I do have some ideas. I wrote down some ideas, but some are just, I don't think they're great, honestly. But I do think I just love, and I always like working with people and kind of finding solutions for people problems in that sense. Building something, always when I learn about company culture and how to build company in that sense, or when I know, when I get in touch with those things at my normal work, I'm very interested in like how to fix those things or how to make them better in like a company building cultural way.
I think we should tackle a little bit the term entrepreneurship. I mean, we both say this word several times per day, I think, on average. And I think to best describe entrepreneurship, we should compare it to just founding a company, maybe. Founding a company that you say, okay, I have an idea. I want to put this idea out to the world and found a company for that and employ some people, and then we produce something and then we sell it. And the difference of entrepreneurship for me is that it is on one side problem oriented, that we don't have an idea and find the customer for it, but have a problem and find an idea for it. So it's the whole company is problem oriented to solve this problem and benefit the world, and that there is some kind of innovation. So founding a company could also be a hairdresser, but there is nothing innovative about it. And maybe having a hairdresser with a robotic arm that cuts your hair. Did you see that one? There's a video going viral of a hairdresser that is fully AI and with robots, CNC robotics that cut your hair. This would be an innovation. It will solve maybe a problem of less hairdressers available, and maybe also has a big potential of getting big, of having also a good market or a new market that can be explored. I think those are some points which distinguish entrepreneurship from a normal business that will be found. What is your point to that, because there are many definitions on the internet and everyone says something different.
That's actually a thing I wanted to just now say, that there's like so many definitions, and I don't even want to like go down and say, okay, this is actually the right definition. I do think entrepreneurship doesn't necessarily mean to start a company. So actually, I'm doing a class right now called Entrepreneurial Mindset, and we just learned like that, and that's very theoretical, but from the textbook, there's like many different entrepreneurship styles, right? And just one of them is basically startup, and the other one would be like in a company, like entrepreneurship and like other forms of entrepreneurship that doesn't necessarily like are startups, because startup is just one part. But yeah. And to the other thing, also here, I don't think it doesn't necessarily have to be innovative, depending on, again, what is innovation, because you can come and take something that works from one market and bring it to another market where it's new. Is that innovation? It's actually not innovation. It's just market. It's just bringing it to the next market.
Market fit. I think if you do a good job, then you also tweak a little bit on your idea for a new market. You know what I mean?
You could, but there are things that just literally do the exact same thing and bring it to the next market, and maybe then it's not entrepreneurship or whatever. Maybe it's not innovative. I do think it's entrepreneurship, definitely, but it's maybe not innovative in that sense. It's just bringing it to a new market. So usually you have like this matrix of like innovation on the one side, and then like new or old market in the other side, and then the king discipline would be like new product and new market. But the other things also work and can actually be very profitable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe the difference between entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship is that it is, on one side, entrepreneurship is in your own company, that you found a company for some idea or a problem, and intrapreneurship is that you get the circumstances and the freedom in a company as an employee to maybe work on an idea. And that's what I have to say, where I got the most of my experience in the startup world, because I didn't found a company yet, right before of founding a company, but in entrepreneurship, in my Taekwondo school, where I had the freedom, worked hard for the freedom I got, that I can work on my ideas, which can be implemented in the company, which of course has some downsides. Maybe I don't get as much of the profit or equity or something, but I also don't have that many risks. So it was a really cool playground of trying, a lot of failing, having a lot of resources to really build my idea. There was workforce for me. There was I don't know, intellectual property, which it costs a lot of money. So this could also be maybe the only way for an idea to work in some circumstances. If you don't have any money yourself, and you don't have any knowledge and don't know any people, then entrepreneurship is way more harder than intrapreneurship, where you already have all those things.
That is definitely true. Like entrepreneurship, when you have a company, it's just you have resources to work with, and you have a kind of like a backup system. So I do think it's very valuable to learn something from that. Also at my current work place, I wouldn't consider myself entrepreneur, no, but it's still our like department is very self operating in terms of like the bigger company. So there's like a small company in the big company, and we're facing basically startup problems. So I do learn a lot of things like startups probably would face, because of just how we operate, and we're trying to acquire customers and stuff. And on the other side, there's also like learnings from like big company structures, right? I think for like a learning purpose, that's perfect, fine. And especially in our age, I think we should definitely pick those things up. It is still very different than like from starting just from the scratch, like not having like a company or anything. I think that's very scary, to be honest. And Yeah, and also the point you said, I think failing is super, super important. So I think people shouldn't be, I say that now, but I still do a little bit worry about failing, right? Because yeah, it is a learning process, and you will learn something in hindsight. Like one other thing I didn't mention before, when you asked me what is my experience with startups, entrepreneurship, and so on, I did this extracurricular studies at Technical University of Vienna, which is like 1 year of like entrepreneurship and innovation studies. So it's very focused on that, like in a study way. And the cool thing is like all our like teachers and mentors, they're not like normal professors in that sense. They're like really people from entrepreneurial society. So they are either also startup owners, venture capitalists, or like marketing specialists and stuff. So when we had that, we also had like this project, and then afterwards we then decided to like work on this startup longer, and we kind of like started this company called Taxator, which is like a taxation platform where we connect small business owners and self-employed people with tax experts, and also like try to make automatic tax filings at the end of the year. So that was our business idea, and we also got like good feedback from like venture capitalists when we pitched, but we ended up not going further with it just because we didn't really see like we probably didn't like the way where it would have headed just in the development of our personal of the three of us. So it was kind of like a decision of the three of us that we just didn't want to pursue, but it was still a very big learning, and from like people side, and also like how company and also how venture capitalists see it. So that learning is definitely very cool, very good for me.
Would you maybe quickly give us an insight of what kind of company do you work at? A company in a company? What was that? Where are you?
So right now I'm working at. Right now I'm doing an exchange semester and kind of like took a break for that. But generally, I'm working as business consultant as at a very big, or it was the biggest Austrian digitalization company. And now it's actually even bigger because we merged with a German company. So we're actually 5,000 employees now, and we're doing like business in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Implementation of software, digitalization company, and we're a small fraction that does business consulting for industrial companies. So we're trying to get them on track with technology, digitalization. We consult them and advise them, but also help them to implement software. So in that sense, it's very small because like 5,000 people it's the whole company, and we are like a small department.
But small means flexible and agile, right?
That's
Which is
I think
on one side a necessity, and on the other side a very upside and advantage for starting something new, something innovative.
Yeah, I mean that's like generally speaking one of the pros of being a startup owner or a startup company as itself, to be flexible. And this is like one of the advantages startup can use against big companies like Microsoft or Google if they have like a great idea, because sometimes people say, okay, yeah, but Google could do that easily. They could, yes, of course they could, but they're not gonna do everything because they don't have the eyes on the whole world for every single idea and thing, and they also have longer periods of like decision making. So you always have to keep that in mind, that this is like one of the fast moving advantages startups have.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they really wait of just acquiring some startup that just went over the first hump of the biggest step of founding and failing a lot, and looking for new ways, innovative ways to solve a problem. And then they acquire you, right? They give you a bunch of money, so you exit. That's how you call it, that you exit the startup and maybe go public, or just get acquired by some Microsoft, Google company.
True.
Corporation.
Would if you were to start a company and be entrepreneur, you have your own company, would you like to exit?
No.
You don't? You wouldn't?
No. I think I am emotional enough to emotionally attach myself to the company to also engrave my identity into this thing. And what I'm just about to build up, it wouldn't work without me. I think it wouldn't work without me. But yeah, I think this is going to be my baby, and I don't want anybody else to touch my baby. But yeah, how about you?
I actually see it the same way. So
Okay.
yeah, actually the baby analogy I also do have, and I want to build this up, and that's why I'm like saying I just love the idea of building this up and making something to last. And yeah, I'm actually reading this book, Built to Last, which is about company building and how to make visionary companies. Very interesting. We can also link it in the description. And they're talking about this, of like how to, they're like kind of analyzing a lot of big, not necessarily big, but now they're big, but like long-standing successful companies with visionary backgrounds, and not only like on profits, but of different like categories. And it's very interesting because like you just said you think it wouldn't work when you were not there. And I think it was a little bit joking, I know.
Yeah.
But the point of the book is like, that's actually the point of like a visionary company. It still lasts, right? Built to last. So the company, I also want to make something built to last, and I think you too, is like to make something so good, a running system, and probably you can't exit because that's not going to work. You make this company to last and make it work, run is itself, and then when you're done, when you die, I don't know, whatever, other people come and step in your shoes and be a CEO, and it still goes and goes because it's like a good built system.
Yes, so you build some kind of legacy that lasts even way longer than your or the next generations. Yeah, built to last. That's a very important thing. And I also have to say that it's maybe also dependent on the personal type, because I know a lot of people, and we have a mutual friend who I could expect that he would be completely fine to build something up, a pioneer, loves to throw ideas up in the air and work on everything and chaos, and then do it. And when it's getting established, when it's getting some routine, when you know, okay, it works, and then maybe the success surges, then they don't have any fun anymore. And that's the time when they exit and want to build the next big thing and take a lot of risks. That's clearly not my path, but I have seen also my former employer, a former founder. He's also a pioneer, so he also loves to build new things. Would have loved to found 3 more companies, but yeah, he's some kind of stuck with the martial arts company, and therefore isn't maybe the most suitable person for this position right now, and isn't also not that happy, but just wants to build new stuff, try out new stuff, completely new stuff, and not get into this routine phase. And I think I like some routine, a good is it fundament?
Yeah.
A good base. And then build on this one. On my base.
Your base. Yeah, I just heard someone talking about this fundament, this base, to be how important it is in life to have this and how to build it. It's like the when you build like a house on like sand, the next wave will wash it away. But when you build it on stone, it will be there forever. It's actually from the Bible.
Really?
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
it's like Matthew.
Little fun fact I knew: New York was built so fast with these huge skyscrapers because there was the fundament, the floor, the ground is so hard that they don't have to build a fundament, a base.
Oh,
little fun fact.
Interesting. Yeah,
it's an
I
educational
like
channel, so it's okay.
Please always tell me fun facts. I like fun facts.
That's all I can offer, I have to say. Yeah,
but I do like you.
I'm so sorry. Continue.
I do like your point when you said like you want to build something and then like basically build on that for like your life. So
Yes.
it kind of like it should, or like from what you said, it's kind of like part of your life. It should be a part of your life. And that's also how I see it. I do think there's two different like mindsets here. Like the first mindset with like just building company exit, like serial entrepreneur. And
Yes.
that's also fine. Like I think there's just two different mindsets. And then the second one where you kind of like build like something that is also connected to you, like a legacy thing. So two different things.
Yes. And also the long-term goal of people who want to build a company that is then worth 2 billion, then they exit, and then they don't want to do anything. They just want to retire with 40 years or 35 years and then chill on a yacht. Yeah, that's what I told myself. I don't want to retire. I want to work until I'm dead. I, of course, like the freedom of enjoying the life, but I would love to work till I'm dead.
I do. I'm gonna be bold and say like those people who want to make this company big and then sell it and then don't do anything. I think those people don't exist, because the people think that, but they're not gonna make it to this point. So maybe I'm wrong, but I do think people that get to the point to having a 2 billion company, $2 billion dollars or euros company, they also want to continue work or do something meaningful in their own sense. What do you think?
They should, because meaning in life is quite important. But I really think that there are some people who are just chilling on their yacht, just invested their 2 billion, and the returns, they just live out of the returns and they have a chill life and live in excess, and that's
Maybe,
it.
yeah, maybe.
Sounds sad. I could also not think about living this kind of lifestyle. I'm way away from this this problem. But yeah, I wouldn't strive for that.
I guess you're right. There must be also people that do that, but I do think a lot of people that actually are very like super big entrepreneurial names, they still continue doing stuff. But
Yes.
obviously there is like both ways. Yeah. So yeah,
It's engraved in their DNA. People who have built such big things, they cannot suddenly stop it.
yeah.
Stop their mind. It's not working.
All right. So about this mindset. So I do think maybe just to, because we talked about business entrepreneurial mindset right now. I do think I'm gonna make a few statements and you can like answer or like disagree or agree. I do think first of all, entrepreneurial mindset can be taught. Secondly, usually those things like the big successful stories, they are not based on like overnight success from a genius idea and just executed very quickly. There are like usually a lot of unseen work of like years of work before that, maybe not necessarily correlated with the startup itself, but like as a person or like with the ideas. So that's the second point. Thirdly, I think you also need to have like a growth mindset and internal focus, locus of control to be an successful startup owner, entrepreneur. Fourth thing I marked down was always start with why. I mean, that's a big thing, I guess. And the fifth thing is collaboration greater than competition.
Yeah. I think also this friends mindset, everybody's with you, this more positively oriented mindset is way more healthy and longer lasting than any other. Yeah. Because if you're a pessimist and you're always proven right, then you get maybe this dopamine kick always of, oh, yeah, I was right. Yeah, everybody hates me. Okay. But this is not long lasting and very optimistic. So I go to the both extremes, and the very optimistic who is always getting disappointed, but always think about the good in the person. They will last, and they will form law of attraction and average of 5 from the last episode. They will eventually create their surrounding that is suitable for them, and a pessimistic surrounding is never long lasting, and an optimistic surrounding always. That's why I consider myself a extreme optimist.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's okay. building to last. No, that it can be taught. That's what you began. Yes, I'm completely with you. All those competences can be taught, even the ones which are not in the textbooks, which could be like dealing with people and stuff like this. And the mindset, those are all things that can be taught, even though you're maybe in a very traditional and not open-minded family, maybe, because for example, I come from a technical family. My father is an engineer. My grandfather is an engineer. My great-grandfather was at the police. And so not many founders of new or inventors in my family. So everybody has a very strict mindset, very smart people. But I think there are not many people which would be, if they would be in my shoes, that they would really go into the entrepreneurship career. So it also can be taught. If we mention the average of 5 again, if you surround yourself with people who have the competences you want, you will eventually get those competences and those things you want to do and how you think. So your mindset too. And yeah, that's why there's not really an obstacle, especially not a knowledge obstacle and mindset obstacle. And the why, we have to do another episode about the book Start With Why, because Simon Sinek's thing is just mind opening. To start with why is the start of every good project in my life, I have to say. It doesn't have to be only career, but also personal life. It's all starts with why.
100%. You want to
say that I maybe do it a little bit differently. Maybe also to my background, I have also a little bit of a touch point with entrepreneurship, because I teach it, not regularly, but I teach it in schools. It's some kind of workshop. It's called Youth Entrepreneurship Week, where I go from school to school. And in this workshop setting, I go through the founding process with all the children between 14 and 18 years old. And they all start with the problem. They start with the problem, then the why, and meanwhile or afterwards the solution. So the first brainstorm the problem which they want to solve, which also includes the why, because if the why is not connected with the problem, they wouldn't think about the problem in the first place. Excuse me. But then afterwards, after the problem, they think about their why and actually understand backwards what they wanted to why they wanted to solve this problem, and then the solution and the other structural processes get way easier with the why. So why is of course a necessity, but most of the time I start with the problem. What do you think?
Yeah, a lot of things said, very interesting things. There's two things I want to mention. So first of all, you talked about the collaboration and the positivity, optimistic mindset. So I also consider myself optimistic. I actually would consider myself what's it called, realistic optimist. But I do think there's a lot of benefit from being optimistic, and I think that's something you have to have as an entrepreneur, to be have the resilience. And I think resilience comes from some sort of optimism. Obviously not blind optimism, but like having the resilience of, okay, there's a failure, something did not work out, or the product didn't go the way how we imagined it to be, and then just continue going. And I think that's very important, like those mindsets. So I do agree, and you can definitely change that with within your life, when you like surround yourself with the right people, surround yourself with the right material, and go into the right bubble. And that's also why I wanted to say, like, back then I was more afraid of like talking about ideas with other people, and more of this competing mindset. And now I'm more of like, honestly, it doesn't really matter. Like, I just if I go to like a startup event and network, I'll just tell them my idea straight away. Because in the end, it's very unlikely that like this mindset of being stolen, the idea being stolen, at the moment, I actually think it's kind of ridiculous, because like they have other ideas at this event. They're not here to like steal your idea, and it's not easy like to just steal the idea, because usually it's not about the idea in the end. It's about actually bringing it from paper, from idea with people to a working product, and that's what makes it work. And if you talk to people and collaborate, it's way more likely to end up being a team that does it together.
Yes. Oh, this is such a beautiful point. I just wrote it down. I got very often tackled with this phrase of children saying, "Nah, I don't want to tell anybody else because I'm afraid that people steal my idea." And so often in one classroom, there are several groups, like 5, 6 groups, and so 5, 6 ideas. And sometimes there are like 2 or 3 same ideas, and they say, "Oh goodness, I cannot do it." And they're looking on our page what we worked on, and it's really not about the idea, or the idea is not the reason why the idea would succeed, but the work behind it. And I would also consider him an entrepreneur who has built it's Ryan Serhant from he has revolutionized the real estate selling industry, and he said that the most important thing is people. So if you have the right people and also the workforce, of course, then only then it has the possibility to really get somewhere.
Yes.
And only the idea was never just a reason why you do something.
Yeah, I also do think so. And I have heard like in like podcasts and other sources, I've had so many people and also venture capitalists tell me it's usually actually it's mostly the time more about the people than about the idea. Obviously, the idea should be something reasonable, and it should be like just past the brain check, the normal, like, oh, it makes sense, like to a certain degree. But it's about the people, and if you believe, if the venture capitalist believes, if the people can actually make it work, and they probably pivot anyway. So
yes,
it is about the
yes.
people. And usually that's also one myth I actually wrote down. You don't need a crazy inventive, innovative idea that has to be super great. You don't even have to have anything, to be honest. Like in the book I'm just reading, there's actually 3 huge companies that it was HP, Sony, and Walmart. They did not start with an idea. They literally said, we want to start a company. And then they started with something totally different first, and then something else, and then they became like HP and Sony and Walmart, like what they're doing now. So that was not the original thing. They didn't start with a great idea. So that's also what I want to put out here is it's a myth that you need a great idea. And that's it. Also kind of like, I was really smiling when I read that the other day in a book. Like it literally said, okay, if you're like a want to be entrepreneur and you don't have the great idea, but you still want to do something, don't be like this. Don't be sad that you don't have this great idea, because you don't need it. Actually, you just have to do it. And if you have the right mindset, it will come along. So that's the other thing. All right. And the second thing I actually wanted to touch about from the thing you previously mentioned was the why aspect. So I think to start with why we do have to make an episode about it. It's such a great book. Simon Sinek is a definitely someone I look up to. We both look up to. And this why aspect is super important, I think, also for building your company and starting your company. So it's, in my opinion, it's even like kind of before the problem. So you need to know your own why. And then from there, you have to make a match with the problem. Obviously, you don't, like maybe in this 1 week of youth entrepreneurship, you don't have the time of like also doing that very, very rigorously. But like usually you wanna like start with the why actually, and then maybe make the fit with the problem.
That's quite interesting. So you want to do your personal why before the problem, then look for problems that are here, And then I think then I would start with the why from your future company,
Yeah,
from your startup.
that actually makes sense, because it's also kind of like the why. I mean, your personal why is your personal why. It's just for
Yeah.
yourself. You don't need anyone else, actually. Maybe you need inputs like to find it, and then when you have your problem and maybe your solution, you will have a team, right? And with this team, you will think about the why and the strategy and about the mission. So this is super important basis and fundament for the company.
I mean, I have to say, yes, the why is some kind of the motivation which occurs from the why is long lasting and very steady.
Mhm.
So I think having a why is the most important thing that brings you from establishing your first sales from, let's say, year 5 to year 20.
Mhm.
Additionally, I really like to mention the energy source of a competition, because you in the beginning mentioned the comparison between competition and connection, community,
Collaboration is greater than competition.
collaboration.
Yeah.
Yes, because I say you mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned Sony.
I said HP, Sony, and Walmart. Yeah, Sony.
Yes, but maybe let's also mention the comparison of Lamborghini and Ferrari.
Mhm.
Lamborghini, just as a tractor manufacturer, he just started to build sports cars, hypercars, because of competition, because he wanted to be better than Ferrari.
Mhm.
And also Ferrari is getting motivation and energy from this competition relationship between those two. And the same is also with Adidas and Nike. Also, Adidas just founded themselves because they wanted to be better than Nike. And also Nike is overthinking their marketing strategy even more often because of Adidas, because they're also doing such a great job.
Mhm.
So I really think that maybe, let's say, the first hump that is necessary
Mhm.
for in your entrepreneurship journey, it is necessary to not only have the why, and maybe the why of the company cannot be so strong because it's not established this long.
Mhm.
You cannot have a strong why about something which just occurred 2 minutes ago. So while the why is getting stronger and stronger, you need maybe or thrive out of the competition energy which occurs and makes your product and your company even better.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do think there's like those two systems. Like I kind of want to say, like, okay, you have the inner system and you have the outer system, right? Outer and inner
Mm-hmm.
energy.
Yeah, intrinsic, extrinsic motivation
Yeah.
could be also. Yeah.
Even though that's a little bit, I wouldn't like use those words, because then maybe it gets mixed up, and it's
Yeah.
a little bit something different. It's not
Mm.
only that, because it's not extrinsic motivation, but you have this outer source as well. I do think this competing source, and like you said, like those are great examples, like Adidas and like Lamborghini, how they thrive through that. So I think both are like very necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I also do want to emphasize like how important this why is, and maybe in the beginning it's not super clear. I would agree, but it will be super important. Like Apple is a perfect example that always is so good with their why, and this is like one of the big reasons actually why Apple is Apple.
Yeah. And why Simon Sinek mentioned in his book Apple so much, because Apple is a perfect example about not only why, but also the company structure and the company communication. And when we also want to compare maybe Sony and Apple, also Simon Sinek has a very beautiful video about the comparison of it's quite old, the video, but it's the comparison of MP3 players. Apple just launched their first iPod, and Sony did the same thing with another MP3 player that was way better. Battery life, features, functions, maybe design too. I don't know. It's all question of taste. But they did, let's say Sony did a better job with the product. In their product presentation, Sony invested 60% of their time being on stage about they invested it in why they're better than their competition, and said, we're better in this and we do this better. And if we compare it with with the Apple launch of the iPod, they talked 100%. They invested 100% of their time in themselves, maybe egocentric or something like this, and 0% about mentioning the competition, which is quite interesting, and which could also be one reason why, if we think about an MP3 player, we think about an iPod, and would never come to the idea of saying, we would like to buy a Sony MP3 player.
Interesting. Actually, now that you tell me that, you kind of convinced me a little bit that the beginning, this competing thing is actually important. But I do think like Apple kind of demonstrates here, it will become less important, because you really need to focus on yourself, and that's what Apple is doing. They actually don't even, like you said, they don't even care about the other company here, being Sony, and how their product is better. They're kind of like too confident even for that, and they just care of like them being great, them having the best product for the customers, for their customers, and telling the customers why they are great. They're competing to themselves rather than competing to Sony.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, beautiful. Quick quote. I just heard it about from the movie Kingsman. True nobility isn't being superior to your fellow man, but being superior to your former self.
Yeah, great.
Which fits perfectly into the sentence you said before, that if you just compare yourself to your self yesterday, that is on one side the healthiest way for you, and also the most efficient. It's the only way.
Yeah, it is actually the only way, like you said. Like also in Built to Last, the visionary companies do that. At some point, you kind of care less about the other people. You just improve yourself, and you compete to yourself. So that's a nice saying.
Sony just wants to be better with this product. No, Apple is playing the long run, because they want to be the best people in the next 100 years. Johnny wants to be in this situation better. And also, let's be honest, if Apple would compare themselves Sony, they just put them right there.
I just wanted to mention that. It is also something kind of psychological, because it is like, you're too cool. Like in high school, you're too cool to compare yourself to like the Sony thing. And Sony is trying, because they could possibly do it as well, but they don't. Like they're like, oh, Apple, we are like better than Apple, but they feel the need to do that. And that's actually what kind of, psychologically speaking, shows weakness. And that's kind of interesting.
I have to say, sometimes one of us just says something, maybe sounds random to another person, but it triggers a train of thought in us, which develops into a train of conversation. And that's why we not only have those conversation tornadoes, I name them, in the podcast, but also if you just talk privately. And I have to say, the first time when we met, because we both went to high school together, to a technical high school in the same school, but not in the same class. And there were 3,000 people in the school. So we didn't really talk to each other. You were just mentioned by our teachers. Yeah, the one with the good grades, and he's so smart. And But so we didn't talk a lot, because I wasn't the one person. I was just a funny guy. But yes, we met each other through a mutual friend at a party, and said, "Hey, Tim, you were at the same school, right?" And we were talking about entrepreneurship. It was the first bonding moment and the first bonding topic, where we said, "Oh, we have mutual interests." And one suggestion, so you listeners get also some valuable knowledge from us. One thing that Tim told me and taught me, which resonated with me, was the idea of creating ideas and problems on a regular basis to really switch your mindset. Because when we asked ourselves, each other, yeah, do you already have an idea for a startup, or do you want to found something? And I said, of course, yeah, I want to found a startup, but I have not the right idea. And you said that you right now currently have the habit of writing down, not going to sleep before you have written down a startup idea. And that's how you collect ideas. So after a year, you have 365 ideas of startups and companies which you can found. So it's almost guaranteed that after those 365 degrees and cycles you go through, you have an idea that would be suitable. And also, even more importantly, you trained your mindset to look out for problems. Going back to the topic which you said, can everything be taught? Yes, especially the mindset can be taught and trained. And after doing this habit, and in our success lab accountability partnership, we both also had one task of coming up with an idea and presenting it to the other person. And so I think through this process, we developed a mindset which is looking out for problems and connected with that opportunities, how we could solve those problems. Thank you very much for this. And since then, everything, look at us.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very honored. You didn't really tell me that. So yeah, you're very welcome. I'm happy to hear that. This kind of technique I actually learned from this entrepreneurship innovation studies I went to at TU Wien, and this innovation professor, who was a venture capitalist actually, he told us, just take your have a notebook on a computer or physically, whatever, and write one idea / problem, because usually the idea is also generated from a problem, down every day, because in the end it is the quantity, and it's
yes,
and it's also about this fit. I kind of mentioned before, I talked to my professor here in Korea, the entrepreneurial mindset professor, the other day, and I told him about, yeah, I don't know, I don't really have the right idea, and I don't know what actually I want to start the company with. And he encouraged me and helped me to take off a little bit of pressure, and also say, okay, the right thing will come, and just try out different things and the right idea. And if you do this thing of putting out ideas and problems all the way every day, it will then resonate at some point with your why. Because I do think it's super important that you have the right idea that you really want to pursue, and then go from there, which fits with the why. And then the next step is the prototyping of just trying out different ideas. A friend of mine, actually, he's doing that right now here. I talked to him the other day. He was doing one idea. 2 weeks ago, he was doing another idea. So he's really prototyping, like the Lean Startup book says. Great book about startup, by the way. So the Lean Startup. Just testing out thing very quick, so you know if it works, and if it is a fit with your why as well. So putting it out to people, talking to people, putting out service, and then you will get feedback, and that's so important, the feedback.
Yes, and also connecting this with the point which we mentioned before, that you should not keep your idea a secret because you are afraid that the idea is getting stolen. Also the Youth Entrepreneurship Week, which I do with the students, it is 4 days long, where we go through this entrepreneurial journey. And out of those 4 days, 1.5 days, so more than 25%, let's say 30 or 40%, is invested into challenging your idea and getting information from the outside. Because you yourself, you have your perspective and your world and your surrounding, but getting out there, asking people about their opinion about something, maybe their problems, and connecting this. I also, because I'm also in a founding process right now, I have a survey running and I collect more and more data since some months and get more and more insights about my topic and challenged my idea and especially changed my idea and adapted 20, 30 times. And I think this is the right way and a good sign if you adapt your idea and maybe also pivot. Also some vocab pivot is if you change your idea of your startup completely and pivot to a completely different topic.
Mm-hmm.
So going out there, challenging your idea, going into the risk of a person saying your idea is stupid, then you're on the right path, because without this knowledge, you wouldn't have this critical thinking and maybe this insight and perspective, which you wouldn't have. And maybe you would feel like this and not if you invested like your house or something.
This is super important. I love that we still touch this in this podcast, because it is in the end about the customers that and their needs, and the customers they're willing to pay for their needs. So that's what you need to find out the right customers, and go out, talk to them, find out what they actually need, and if they want to buy your product. Because this is the information that is super important. And also this critical thinking is very important, like soft skill wise. Like you need this soft skill and be critical about your idea as well, because often, and I did that myself, I had this great idea, maybe it was great, whatever, but I go out and talk to people, and then they give me feedback, which is so valuable. But you need to take it and accept it and say, yes, maybe the idea is not so great, or it can be improved, because it's not about your idea was great at the beginning. It's about where are you going with the feedback.
Yeah, it's going to hurt your ego though. You
yeah,
should be
but
prepared.
this is a soft skill you need to learn.
Yes.
One of the many soft skills you need as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. No. And I think what also helps me, because if we both, I've also seen this process with you, when we have an idea, we have the problem because of this steadily collecting of ideas. And then sometimes we throw it out the next day, and sometimes we go the process a little bit further and maybe use some more tools to fire up our brain and to brainstorm and to get some critical thinking and other perspectives to really develop this idea to a company. Do you maybe have some suggestions for the steps which coming after the initiative idea?
Yeah,
maybe
so
in the shower.
In the shower?
Yes, it's happened already 3 times last week that I jumped out of the shower and ran to my whiteboard, which is here, but here no secret ideas. You don't have to read this, but on the other whiteboard, where I ran there with my towel around me, water still dripping. I take out my whiteboard markers and write on the whiteboard. Yeah, shower thoughts are the most important and valuable thoughts you have in your life.
Okay, so I actually had 2 things to say, but now I have 4 things because you just gave me 2 more ideas with your speech.
Yeah.
So first of all, I love how you just presented storytelling, which is actually one thing is super important as like an entrepreneur. You need to sell your idea, you need to do storytelling. And even though that was not something I wrote down, when you go to like pitch your thing, you basically need to do storytelling, because storytelling is one of the best things to pitch your things. Obviously, there's like maybe a few things where you don't want to do that, but usually speaking, storytelling is the way to go, and you presented it perfectly. I don't think I can do it that well yet, but that was great.
Maybe we could do, I'm so sorry to interrupt one last time. Maybe we do the next episode about storytelling.
Yes, we can definitely talk about storytelling and all those things to present things, and I think that would be a good topic. Yes, we should do that. We should do that.
We commit ourselves. Let's do storytelling next time. Okay, I'm so sorry. Next.
Yeah. The second thing also just came up when you said that. Yes. Now I know what you mean with shower ideas, and I do have that actually in bed, but everyone has like those ideas. And actually one of my professors at the entrepreneurial studies at TU, he also said, it's kind of interesting because he said he is very aware of like environmental issues and some stuff, and tries to make his carbon footprint low. But one thing he actually doesn't save to that is showering, because he just takes long time showering, because he also, like you said, his best ideas come when he is in the shower, in a warm shower, and he kind of doesn't care about the water waste. And I totally like, I understand that, like, and I think that's a great point to point out here as well.
Yeah.
So the practical kind of like lesson here is always have something. I mean, take your shower and have your things, but also have something to write it down with, right? So I think that's what I learned. Like, I have something next to my bed. If I have an idea, and I don't want to go to my phone because blue light and stuff, whatever, I don't want to get up, have something to write down always. So this is the second thing.
And also write down, do the effort, because sometimes you're just in a lecture having everything ready, and you think, that's an idea, I will remember it. No, you will not remember it. I guarantee you will forget this meaningful thought.
Yeah.
So always write it down.
So the second thing is write it down. And then actually, because you asked the question, the two things I have prepared here, kind of two tools as an entrepreneur in early stage is, first of all, design thinking. So design thinking is a approach of coming from basically the very beginning of the problem. Here it's important to you're starting with the problem, not like the idea. It's actually very important to get out of the idea mindset at the beginning of the early stages. So there's like 6 stages, or depending which framework you're looking at, is 5, 6, or 7. But it's basically always starting with like understanding the problem and the customer's need, defining it very good. Then you come to like an ideate and like throw in ideas, and then you test it out, like by doing prototype, and then go out to customers. And the whole thing is iterative, so you go back in and like loops if something doesn't perfectly work out. And so this is a very good approach of like cleanly coming from a problem to like something that could work actually.
Yes. So it's always also this cycle. I mean, it's a process from one point to the other, but also directly related to it is are always those cycles. Like in technical school, we said PDCA cycle, but also the lean startup cycle, that you think about something, you try it out, and then you improve it, and then you do the same thing over and over again. Always
iterate.
Yes, iterate. Beautiful word. Second tool, I think.
And the second tool,
mentioned the second tool.
Yes, it's business model canvas, BMC. It's a great tool, I think, to put everything on one sheet. I'm a big fan of those things because I need like structure, and it has good structure for all of your early startup things. So this is a tool when you already have like an idea, value proposition, and some stuff. I can quickly read out the 9 boxes. So there's basically 9 boxes on this sheet of paper. You can do it like on a laptop, on websites like Canva, for example. You can do it on the piece of paper, and you're thinking about those 9 topics, which are value proposition, customer segment, channels. The third one is channels. Fourth one is customer relationship. Fifth one is key activities, then key resources and key partners. And the 8th and 9th thing is customer structure and revenue structure. So you're really thinking about value proposition is obviously like one of the core things. Then about the customer things, the customer segment, customer relationships, and the channels, how to go to the customers. Then the key activities, resources, and partners. What do you need? What partners do you need? And then on the bottom, it's kind of like the whole money aspects with what does it cost and what is the revenue? And this gives you very good like kind of like feeling estimation, like does it work out with all of those aspects? What do you need to improve in? So this is one advice.
Quite funny, because business model Canva we both learned with our professor at the technical high school, right? Professor Leb.
Did we? We probably did.
Yes, we did.
I actually okay, if I did, which we assume now, I learned it like 3 times in school. So one time in
Yes.
Austria high school and one time in technical university, and then one time
Yes.
here at KU, Korea
Yes.
University. So
Yeah, that's for sure. And I also have to say that there are a lot of versions of the business model Canva. That there are a lot of fields, and you just take what is suitable for you. But the irony, which I wanted to mention, is the teacher who I mentioned, our professor, who taught us the business model Canva, which was super boring for me, especially at this time. But right now, I'm also teaching her school, her class, about the entrepreneurial Youth Entrepreneurship Week. And I also teach them the business model Canva. And I'm always laughing when I see her face and she says, I taught you. And I said, no, I taught it myself because I thought it was boring. But yeah, business model Canva is not only, I think, that is taught very often in school, but also is a daily practice in the startup world. So people really use this tool to get some structure into their idea. It's just, you really should Google it. We'll write it down in the description. It's just fields. And because you mentioned some tools which create this business model Canva, it could be Canva, but I also have seen a free Notion template about the business model Canva, which I implemented. And there are also very critical questions around every field, around every topic. When you answer those, then you have a very good core of your business plan. And with this business plan, including this business model Canva, you could go, for example, to a bank and ask for a loan, right? Yes. This is getting serious very quickly. And there's also maybe another word for it, which is a lean canvas. But it's all meant the same thing. And I've also seen an addition to this tool, which is the lean canvas in combination with the value proposition. And the value proposition is, it's not very common in business, but it's a very cool layout. Also additional questions and fields in this lean canvas, which can be implemented. And all those words like design thinking, big thing you should read into is business model canvas, lean canvas, value proposition. All those things will be linked in the description. You should Google it. You should learn it. You should put it into your DNA. And one last thing, it's the coolest thing. Most people think they have to found everything by themselves and have to think about everything, but there are already structures which were proven. And if you go through this structure, you have a good base. This is so cool. You don't have to think about anything new. Just answer those questions and challenge your idea. And then you get enough perspectives to really tackle the next steps.
Yes, it is actually kind of like a blueprint, which is super cool that this blueprint is out there. So you have this blueprint. I just wanted to kind of continue saying, yes, you can go to like pitches and something. This is perfect jumping board from like just something that you're like talking to, then putting out on this business model canvas. And then you can actually, if you just improve it a little bit, already go and pitch this thing to investors or like banks or whatever, or like potential partners.
Yeah.
Great.
So you already mentioned further steps. Let's go through the first 4 steps. The first step, which would be a problem and the why. Second step could be some kind of design thinking and the canvas, maybe starting with this one.
Yeah. And here it's also important to go out. And go to customers, which is a part of the second part, but maybe like put it out as a third part here, to go out to the market, to the customers. So that would be the third part.
Then we maybe start already with the prototype.
Fourth part, yeah, prototype, and go out again, obviously. Fourth part, prototype again, like iterate. I think that would be the fourth part, to do prototyping all the way.
Yes. And also mentioning maybe another keyword is an MVP, to build a minimum viable product as fast as possible. So to build something that represents your idea, you do it as cheap and as quick as possible, but also as usable as possible.
Yeah.
Or everything else that is needed. So to get some additional information and support from people from the outside, but also maybe getting some funds from banks or investors or partners.
Like
which
an
can also be adapted.
example. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, say an example.
An example for this is actually like a click dummy, which is super useful if you want to like do an app or something which is very complicated, and you don't want to put too much resources at the beginning into that at the beginning to show the product to potential partners, investors, and whatever. So you do like a click dummy, which actually everyone can do online with various programs. You just design like the interfaces, free programs as well. Or like for the very start, it's totally fine to do that with a free program, and then you can even send it to people to test out, and then you get good feedback.
Yes. Another practical implementation is Dropbox, who not only have done the first prototype, but some features weren't working yet. So they had a pitch in front of investors and said, oh goodness, some features don't work. So they just created a video where they click through their prototype and just left out the things that didn't work back then, but know that afterwards with the fundings they can implement those functions. And that was the reason why they got a very high investment, which just made Dropbox the size that they are right now, right?
Crazy.
Which was the start for cloud.
That's
for the
crazy,
cloud,
yeah.
Right?
So
Yeah.
you don't
so it doesn't
need
have to work perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need this final perfect product at the beginning.
Yes, you should not, because all those features may be obsolete after you get the first feedback of an investor or another person. Yeah. So MVP, minimum viable product, will also write it down in the description.
I love that we at the end of the podcast touched on this super, super, super important thing of this feedback and customer need thing. And I do think we covered all our points.
Yes.
So I just ask you, do you have anything else to say before we wrap up the episode and maybe what was your favorite part of today's episode?
I think that's a good question. Let me think a little bit more about the favorite part about today's episode. But one thing which really resonated with me in the last days was a video which we would like to play on the podcast right now here, which is talking about really taking action. So I just play the sound in here, but you will hear it in high quality, of course, in just a second.
Be careful telling people your goals. It releases dopamine, similar to actually achieving them. Don't get trapped in the mental masturbation cycle of planning to change your life, but never actually doing it. Life is a game, and eventually, you're going to have to face that monster, and then the next, until you have a story worth telling people about.
So, a very big thing that resonated with me is the process of telling people about your idea. So I'm now confronted very often with, Christoph, you're not in a daily job right now. What do you do right now? And then I present them my business idea. This releases the same hormones, dopamine, which signals your body that you're taking action and making progress, which you are not. And that's why I was stuck for some weeks, I also think, of just talking about my idea, but not really taking action and doing stuff. And also this very chemical and biological approach of, it releases actually dopamine, which is the same hormone that is released if you really take action, is also quite interesting. What do you think about this?
Interesting. So when I heard the clip, I didn't immediately think about that, but that's a super cool point. At some point I have heard that somewhere, not related to this topic, that this releases the same thing, like you telling people. That's actually you shouldn't always tell people like your next goal because of that, because it releases the feeling you have already achieved something. So that's actually one reason why you would rather keep it a secret. There's obviously reasons, accountability reasons for the other way, but that would be a reason for like keeping it a secret. So I think that's interesting, but how do we go? Like in the end, we want to talk about it, right? We want to talk it a lot. So what do? We talk a lot, but then we release it.
I think being conscious about this effect.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's a high risk. I have to say, for me, it's a high risk that I hide myself behind just talking about it
Mm-hmm.
and not taking action.
Ah, okay, I see.
Which is a big risk, which I'm aware of. So maybe I don't talk a lot about my idea, but do more. And other people maybe have to do the other way around. Talk about more, getting more feedback in, because I get feedback a lot.
Yeah. So in the end, basically, you need just both. You need to be aware of it. Like you said, I think me knowing that, having the mindset to know that you don't just talk about it, because in the end, you will not accomplish something, but you want to talk about it a lot and also do it. That's the way to go.
Yes, that's the way to go. My favorite part of today's podcast was definitely the one thing about always writing your idea down, which resonated with me a lot. So to always have a pen and paper with you and always writing it down. I will install something in my shower. What was yours?
All right, that's a nice one. For me, my favorite one personally is actually the realization that you don't need that great idea at the beginning. You can just rely on, like, it will come at some point and it will come to fit your why. Like when I talked to my professor, and also when I read it in the book, actually, I just read like this passage the other day, which said, for all entrepreneurs that want to like start something, but don't have this great idea, like big companies, like other big companies, haven't had this idea at the beginning. So just go out, start, and it gives me also like confidence to do that in the future. So that's my favorite thing, actually.
All right, guys, we hope you liked today's podcast. We will write, of course, everything down which about what we were talking about. And yeah, really hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, if you didn't enjoy it, please let us know on our social media channels. We will link ourselves on Instagram and also here on Spotify. And we will see each other in 2 weeks, isn't it? About storytelling.
In 2 weeks.
Perfect.
Good. Thank you, Christoph. See ya.
Thank you, Tim.